Hi everyone. Today we are going to treat a topic concerning constants and variables. But before we go to the actual topic, let us look at the objectives of the lesson. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to observe and describe how constants and variables are used in programming. Identify constants and variables in programming codes. Last one, know why variables is of benefit than constant in programming. Now that we have known the objectives of the lesson, let's take a look at these two scenarios. Let us assume that there are three apples in a basket, which is visible to anyone and can see that it is actually three in the basket. And again, let us also assume that the basket is placed in front of you at a distance, and it happened that some are being added to the rest in the basket. In these two scenarios, you will realize that the first one was fixed and nothing happened to it. It remains a three always when you saw it. But in the second one, you also realize that although there were some apples which were being added, but didn't know the actual number of apples in the basket because you didn't have a look at it. The first one happened to be constant because it's fixed, it can't change. The second one happened to be variables because it can be any number and it's not fixed. Now, on this note, let us link these two scenarios in programming. Today, we are going to take a look at how constants and variables are used in programming. So, our topic for today is how constants and variables are used in programming. Now, when you write a program, you will often need to include codes that can store, retrieve, and sometimes modify data when the program is executed. To do this, you will often use variables and constants. Variables and constants define areas in memory in which values into bracket data are stored. In other words, variables and constants are unique identifiers that retrieve values from the memory address at which they are stored. Variables hold values that can be modified when a program is executed. Constant, on the other hand, holds values that remain unchanged when the program is executed. Now let's go to constant. It's a data item whose value cannot be changed during program's execution. Constants are used in two ways. We have one, literal constants, and two, define or name constant. Literal constants. A literal constant is a value you type into your program whenever it is needed. Example include the constant used for initialization, a variable, and constant used in lines of code. Now we have integer literal, which is 21, floating point 12.34, character literal, a in inverted commas, string literal, hello world in also quote, boolean literal, true or false. Now let's move to define or name constant. Define constant or name constant. You can give a name to a constant. This name represents a specific value which can be changed when the program is running, which cannot be changed when the program is running. The value of the name constant is specified in the keyword section of the keyword section of the definition specification. The presence of the keyword cost is optional. However, for example, to assign a value of AB to constant, you could specify either cost into bracket AB in the constant section. To declare a name constant, write cost in front of its declaration. For example, cost int height is equal to 8. Now let us look at this sample code. This code, after executing, will display a constant value. This code was written in C++. So if you look at the executing part or the executable part, you'll realize that the hello world is put in inverted commas. And when this code is being run, the value hello world won't change. That is what will be displayed to the user, because you can realize that there is no string of codes that is making computation or accepting data from a user. So the hello world will display to the user, so it won't change. Now let's move to variables. They are data values that change when the user is asked a question. For example, their age. Variable may change during program execution. The key difference when comparing a constant to a variable name may change during program execution. The content and organization of a computer's memory is not fixed, so neither is the value that is pointed at by the variable. When data is read from a variable, the content of the memory location is copied and used in calculations. Now, this is also a sample of code which will display or which will bring out some variables when it's being executed or run. Now, if you look at the executable part, we have some variables or values there which is being assigned by numbers and one not being assigned by number, that is the z. So in this code is to add for it to bring a result. So after it's being added, it will bring the results, which is the value of z. It will bring that result, making that result 15, because now there are some strings of codes which are making some computation. So automatically the z will change, making it variable, because right now we don't know the actual number of z. So when the code executes, then we know the number, so it makes it a variable. Now let's just look at some types of variables. Now there are many types of variables, but for the purpose of this lesson, we will treat two of them, which is very common. We have local variable and two global variable. Now local variable, a variable which is declared inside a function, is known as local variable. It is used only inside the function in which it is declared. 2. Global variable, a variable which is declared outside the function, is known as global variable. It can be used throughout the program. Now this sample of code shows the global variable and the local variable being declared inside the function and global variable being declared outside the function. Now the global variable, it can be used throughout the program, as I explained earlier. Now let's look at the benefit of using variables instead of constants. Variables play an important role in computer programming, because they enable programming to flexible programs rather than entering data directly into a program. A programmer can use variables to represent the data. Then, when the program is executed, the variables are replaced with real data. This makes it possible for the same program to process different set of data. Every variable has a name called the variable name and a data type. A variable's data type indicates what sort of variable the value the variable represents, such as whether it is an integer, a floating point number, or a character. The greatest advantage of the variables is that they enable one and the same program to execute various sets of data. Now we have come to the end of the lesson. Thank you very much for listening.